Feel free to be whoever you want to be. Feel free to dance, feel free to sing, just feel free. Feels like the world is picking on ya. Feels like it's picking on me. But trying to please everybody, that ain't no way to be. So many people try to get you to fit their mold. I think it's time for a change. This is what I say. Feel free to be whoever you want to be.
Oh boy. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Don't look now, everybody. Don't look now. But it's August. It got here quick. It got here quick, but it is August. August the 7th, 2023. It's still hot outside, but it is August. And that means that there will now, starting last week, there will be football on every week from now until the Super Bowl in February. Hallelujah. Amen. I am in favor of that. Preseason football is here. The Jets and the Browns played in the Hall of Fame game last week in what was a thriller. Wow, what a great game. And now everybody else is getting ready to play this week, including the Tennessee Titans. Welcome to the Two-Tone Talk podcast. This is episode 29, the Dane Cruikshank episode. Episode 27 was Eddie George. Episode 28 was CJ2K. And now episode 29 is Dane Cruikshank. Yes, that's what's going on today. Preseason football is here. This podcast is available on Apple, Spotify, SoundCloud, anywhere you listen to podcasts, and YouTube. So everybody please go subscribe to the Two-Tone Talk podcast on YouTube because it's nearing like 400 subscribers. Just something I started in the middle of the season last year. Right about the time when we started that losing streak. So maybe it was this podcast that ruined everything. And also go follow me on Twitter at Two-Tone Talk. So let's talk about this. The Tennessee Titans are playing football this weekend. The Tennessee, even though a lot of the guys playing probably won't even make the roster, the Tennessee Titans are playing football this weekend against the Chicago Bears in Chicago on Saturday. So, I'll tell you this about preseason football. I don't care who we're playing. I don't care what the final score is. Okay? Of course, I always want to see the Titans win, but I don't care about final scores in preseason football. You probably don't either. But this is probably the most anticipated Tennessee Titans preseason that I can remember. I mean, it's like we get 3 extra weeks of like meaningful Titans football because yes, Derrick Henry's not going to play. Kevin Byard probably not going to play. DeAndre Hopkins definitely not going to be playing in these preseason games. A lot of star players. Jeffrey Simmons, I would anticipate that he will not be playing. But it's still meaningful Titans football because it's meaningful for the future. It's meaningful for where we go after this season. After maybe whatever happens, and I will apologize in advance. It is storming like crazy here, so I can't guarantee if you're watching the live stream right now that this is even going to stay. It's calmed down a lot from where it was, about 30 minutes ago, but I just wanted, if you hear a loud boom outside, it's thunder. But this is meaningful Titans football, maybe not so much for this season, but some of it is. These rookies, Guys like Tyjae Spears, I'm excited to see him. I'm excited. We're hearing about some of these wide receivers that some of which we didn't even give a thought, who are having very good training camps. I'm interested to see them in preseason action in a live game. And of course, the most meaningful would be the quarterback position. Like, I know we're not going to have a lot of our key guys, so you're not going to be able to get a gauge on where we stand as far as when the regular season gets here, but we know that. It's never that way. What is going to be happening, though, is that I anticipate Will Levis in every preseason game is going to play a half, and then Malik Willis is going to play a half. And this is meaningful because I know preseason football is never going to be the be-all, end-all. Just because someone has a great preseason, that does not automatically translate to they're going to be great. And just because someone maybe has a lackluster preseason, that does not automatically translate to them being terrible. But Will Levis, we traded up to the top of the second round to get this guy. So, yes, I am very interested in watching Will Levis. And I'm interested in watching Malik because he's still on the team too. They've made a rule this year that you can have 3 quarterbacks. Ryan Tannehill's probably done after this season, with the Titans at least. So, yeah, this is going to be meaningful Titans football because we all want to see, I know it's preseason, but we all want to see how Will Levis is going to perform. We all want to see really how Malik Willis is going to perform. We saw Malik last year in some regular season games. It was not great. It was not great. The infamous argument of, was he put in a position to succeed because of how bad the O-line was, the lack of weapons. I understand that, but Malik Willis, I thought when he got to play last year, he left a lot to be desired, but he's had a whole off season. He's had a whole off season now to figure this out. He ain't a rookie no more, so I'm interested in watching Malik because, at the start of camp, there were some reports out there. Of course, we're not able to see the practices. A lot of times we have to rely on reports from people like Jim Wyatt and Paul Kaharski and Teron Davenport. We have to rely on reports from those people about what's going on at camp so many times. But, early on, it was like, hey, Malik Willis looks better. He looks like he has improved. Now, over this last week, they've been in full pads doing full-speed scrimmages, and all of a sudden, it kind of feels like Will Levis is maybe going up, and Malik's kind of, you're hearing some things about that. But I'm ready for, a lot of times preseason football comes along, and yes, we're all excited because it's football, but, you guys remember what it was like when it was like, okay, starting for the Titans tonight in this preseason game is going to be Logan Woodside. I mean, you remember that was just like, we know what we got with guys like that. But I think that this is interesting because we're hoping that one of these guys is the future of the organization. Namely Levis. I mean, trading up to the top of the second round to get him, you're hoping that blossoms into something sooner rather than later. I know he's not going to have to start this year because Tannehill's still there, and Tannehill's going to get the job, of course, but you want to see what you got. So I'm very excited. It's to me, it's meaningful Titans football for the preseason, and so it's like we get 3 bonus weeks of meaningful Titans football. I'm anxious to watch it, and I'm anxious to see the rookies. Like I said, I mentioned Tyjae Spears. I'm interested to see. I'm a little worried about this offensive line. We've had. Let's talk about the offensive line. Okay, Nicholas Petit-Frere, starting right tackle. We already know he's out for the first 6 games because of gambling. Stupid. Then Jamarco Jones, who was somebody that they brought in last year, who was hurt the whole year and just never really played. Literally never played. He was probably going to be the starting right tackle for those 6 weeks. And then I've never seen anything like that. The dude just keeps getting in fights, keeps instigating fights at camp, and they just kicked him off the team. Like, the dude was taking cheap shots at his own players. I mean, I understand. I understand at practice, like, scuffles happen, pushing, shoving, shouting matches, all that stuff. I know that stuff happens, but like this dude, if all reports are true, which all the reports have said the same thing, this dude was taking cheap shots at his own teammates. Was told to stop, was told to get it together, and it just got worse and worse to the point where they kicked him off the team. And now, the third dude who was stepping in, I don't even remember who it was, he went to the locker room a couple days ago with a leg injury. Now, he wasn't like carted off or anything, so hopefully he'll be fine, but, they've signed a new guy, a free agent. Like, I'm a little worried about offensive line. I mean, Andre Dillard, who's probably going to be starting left tackle, you hear these reports about him getting kind of tossed around early on. What was it, Arden Key, who I'm very excited about, by the way, but Arden Key was just having this dude's lunch in the training camp reports. I mean, it was just like, Arden Key had like 15 sacks today because he's just running right by this left tackle. I can't watch more Dennis Daly type left tackle play. I can't do it. I mean, if we have to get Taylor Lewan and his skinny self to come out there at 85 pounds or however much Taylor Lewan weighs now to come out there and do something, I mean, we might have to bring in Compton for year 10 to play left tackle if we have to. But, Skoronski, the first-round pick, you expect big things out of him. He's first-round pick, so I'm assuming he'll be playing in the preseason. I'm ready to watch him. Aaron Brewer, one of the only, for the first 6 weeks at least, Aaron Brewer will be the only returning offensive lineman from last season, and he'll be playing a new position. He was left guard last year. Now he's going to be the center. And Will Dotson, I agree with you. He in the live chat, he just put Dennis Daly's name with the puking emojis. Yeah, when I think back on that, so that's my biggest area of concern for the Titans, going in as the offensive line. But I hope that Vrabel will have those same flashbacks like me and Will Dotson do to last season, to be like, hey, we cannot put ourselves in that position again. We cannot put our quarterback in that position again. We cannot put Derrick Henry in that position again. Because in all likelihood, this could very well be the Tannehill-Henry farewell tour. Okay? So, yeah, I'm excited to watch these rookies. I'm excited to watch the big tight end that they drafted late. I'm excited. Now, these wide receivers, let's talk about the wide receiving group. Obviously, DeAndre Hopkins was brought in a couple weeks ago. We know that's got all of our spirits up, right? Treylon Burks, I never want to put too much stock into reports from training camp, but the clips that we've seen of Treylon Burks, the reports that we're hearing about Treylon Burks, he seems like a different guy. I mean, last year it was tough. He was a rookie, and there was talk of, like, him having to go in to meet with trainers every day because there was asthma, and there was, tweaking his leg, doing little leg injuries here and there. And, it was tough sledding for Treylon. You could see the potential, but, he looked like a rookie. This year, it appears that he has come into training camp with a different kind of attitude, a different kind of, confidence, and that's great. I've seen clips of him kind of talking to some of the younger guys, trying to help them along. Great! So I have high hopes for him, and I'm thinking I don't know if we'll see him this weekend, but I think we will see some Treylon Burks in the regular season. I think we will. I'm not saying maybe every game, but I think you'll see some Treylon at some point, and I'm ready to see him kind of get out there. Kyle Phillips is another guy. I still think of him kind of as a rookie because, I think he played in 3 games last season, and it was early on, and then he had a season-ending injury. So, obviously we remember the potential with him, in the punt return game maybe. You could see him doing that, and also his quickness, his agility. It was the season opener last year against the Giants where Kyle Phillips had a very good game and had a catch, over on the sideline that set him up for a potential game-winning field goal, which Randy missed. So, I'm excited. I think we'll get probably a good bit of Kyle Phillips in the preseason. Again, I'm not going to say we'll see him every single game, but I would say you'll probably see more Kyle Phillips than Treylon Burks, because I still think of him as a rookie. I mean, because he didn't play a whole lot last season due to injury, and I hope he can stay healthy. I hope the whole freaking team can stay healthy, because they haven't stayed healthy in like 3 years. But other receivers, obviously Hopkins, you're not going to see Hopkins in the preseason, but we're glad to have Hopkins there. I think to hear the way that Vrabel talks about Chris Moore, who was with the Texans and the Titans signed him early in the offseason, Vrabel really likes this Chris Moore, and I think that's great. Like, I am much more intrigued by Chris Moore as a wide receiver 3 than I am a wide receiver 2, because before we got Hopkins, it was like, dude, is this Chris Moore going to have to come in and be wide receiver 2? But now that Hopkins is there, we can bump him down the depth chart a little. I'm a little more intrigued by Chris Moore. He's wearing number 11. So I'm expecting to see a lot of you fans doing the duct tape over the A.J. Brown jerseys and putting more on there. But I think Chris Moore could actually be a vital part of this offense. I don't know how much you'll see of him in the regular or in the preseason, but in the regular season, I think Chris Moore could be a vital part of this offense, because Burks and Hopkins, if you're kind of zeroing in on those guys, who's the next man up who could make big plays for the offense, it would be Chris Moore if he's wide receiver 3. So I would think Chris Moore is a lock to make the final roster. I think Kyle Phillips is a lock to make the final roster. I think just how quick he is, how agile he is, unless he just had a disastrous training camp of preseason. Let me ask you guys this. Is Nick Westbrook-Akine a lock to make the final roster? I've seen it both ways. I have seen people in response to this question who have said, well, of course he's a lock. He's been on the roster for 3 years. Like, of course he's a lock to make the roster. And I have seen people say, no way. No way. We've got these other guys stepping up. No way is NWI making this roster. I lean more toward Westbrook-Akine's probably a lock to make the roster. He's probably a lock. I mean, the only way he's not a lock to make the final roster is if, because we've heard things from camp about guys like Reggie Roberson. We've heard, we know they drafted a guy named Colton Dowell in the last round of the draft. And then they ended up picking up the dude from Georgia. And so people are intrigued by that just because the dude's from Georgia. And Georgia had so many studs. So people are kind of looking at that guy, Racey McMath, who to me has had a very quiet training camp. Is Racey McMath, is he still on the team? Like, you remember last year's training camp, it was like, oh, Racey McMath has improved so much. Racey McMath is coming in here and he's going to make a difference. And then, he got hurt and didn't do much. This training camp, it's like, I ain't hearing a dang word about Racey McMath. I'm honestly, the receiver that I'm hearing the most about coming out of camp is this Reggie Roberson. Like, every day, it's like, great catch by Reggie Roberson for a touchdown. So I'm starting to wonder if that guy is going to make the roster. I think Westbrook-Akine, I don't think any of those guys are going to do well enough to beat out Nick Westbrook-Akine for a roster spot. I just don't believe it. If they do, then so be it. But I think that ultimately Burks, Hopkins, Moore, Phillips, Westbrook-Akine, I think those 5 right there are a lock to make the team. I would be stunned if one of those guys doesn't make the team, even in WI. But there's another spot, and so that's wide open, and that's why you have things like preseason football. Who's going to step up? Will this Reggie Roberson, will he be the guy who steps up in preseason? I mean, what about, a guy like Racey McMath or Colton Dowell, will one of these guys step up? Because ultimately, with the way things go in the season, injuries do happen. They shouldn't happen at the rate that the Titans have them happen, but they do happen either way, and there's a good chance that one of those guys is going to have to step up at some point in the regular season. So I'm anxious to see that. Obviously, Chig Okonkwo is, pretty much another receiver. I mean, even though he's a tight end, I think Chig Okonkwo, I'm ready to watch him. He had a sensational rookie season, showed a lot of potential. And I think you'll get to see Chig a little bit in the preseason, about like Traylon. I don't think you'll see him constantly every game in the preseason, but I think you'll see him here and there. So I'm very excited about seeing how that bottom of that wide receiver depth chart kind of plays out. Some new names at tight end I'm ready to watch. I'm anxious to see this offensive line and, the quarterback position. I'm anxious to see how Levis performs. I'm anxious to see how Willis performs. And, oh, by the way, a guy like Hassan Haskins, who had some allegations against him that when they came out, I was like, this dude don't even need to make the team if some of this stuff's true. I don't know what has come of that. I know he made a statement about it and said that those allegations were false. I don't know where he stands with that process, but, we'll see him this preseason. We'll see Tyjae Spears. I'm excited to watch that. And, I remember the name Julius Chestnut. You probably remember that name from last preseason where he carried the ball all the time. You'll see probably some of him as well. So offensively, a lot of rookies and a lot of new guys that I'm excited. I'm excited to watch. Defensively, I think you're going to see a lot of people that you don't recognize on defense because I just don't imagine Simmons, Autry. I do wonder if they'll get Harold Landry some reps since he's had an entire year off. I'm excited to have him back. Some of these new guys, Alshire and Arden Key, I mean, do you get some of those guys playing time? Who knows? Probably not. So I think defensively, you're going to have a lot of guys that you don't recognize. But I'll tell you what. I'll tell you one guy that I'm going to be watching in the preseason. And can I get an amen? And that dude's name is Caleb Farley. This dude, first round draft pick, probably another bad draft decision by John Robinson. A lot of potential, but coming off of that injury, it worked with Jeff Simmons. They tried to see if lightning could strike twice with Caleb Farley to get a guy coming off an injury who rehabs, comes in just as strong as they were. It has not paid off with Farley so far. Came in as a rookie, had to play, got hurt, went out, never came back. Came back last year and did not play well through the first little bit. Then he got hurt again and was out. So, I mean, it's time. I mean, this is the year. If he's ever going to do anything, this is the year. So, and he will undoubtedly be in there throughout the preseason. So, I'll be keeping an eye on him, and so will you. I'm excited to see some of those second-year guys on defense like Roger McCreary, who showed potential last season, started most of last season. I'm excited to see him kind of get in there. I'm excited to see some of these young corners, get in there and do their thing. So, I'm excited, man. I'm excited. Probably the most excited I've ever been for preseason football, just because, mainly of the quarterback situation, because there's a lot riding on Levis especially, but, I mean, odds are they want one of these guys, probably Levis, to be able to take the reins as soon as next year. And so this will be full speed tackle football going on. And I'm excited. I'm excited just to wake up this weekend and be able to watch Titans football. I mean, ain't nothing better, man. There's something about when that calendar jumps from July to August, you start to sense it. You just start to sense it. Everybody's talking football. Everybody's, talking preseason. Everybody's just starting to get excited. And on that note, I will say here on the Two Tone Talk podcast, for the preseason, I will be back every Monday talking about what happened the previous week in the preseason game. And then once the season gets here, I will probably go back to doing 2 episodes a week. So make sure you're subscribed to the Two Tone Talk podcast on YouTube. Make sure you're following at Two Tone Talk podcast on Twitter. I keep calling it Twitter, but it's X. So follow Two Tone Talk on X. And yeah, I will say this. As I look at I'll close out with this. I look at the landscape of the AFC South, and let me first of all say it's nauseating to me how I feel like every NFL insider account is going to unbelievable lengths to hype up Anthony Richardson in Indianapolis. Every day. It's like, ooh, this just in from Indianapolis. Anthony Richardson took all of the snaps with the first team offense today. And I'm like, yeah, like, they don't have anybody else. Like, they drafted him to come in and be their starting quarterback. Like, what is that report? They're like, the other day, they posted one that were like, look at this deep ball by Anthony Richardson. I'm like, have you guys not learned? Like, I know we're desperate for football, but like, if I have to see one more rookie quarterback throw a deep ball in practice and then have it uploaded to social media and it'd be like, oh my gosh, they're the next big thing. It's like, okay. Like, Jamarcus Russell could go out there and throw a deep ball in practice. But, he was Jamarcus Russell at the end of the day. Will Dotson in the chat brings up something very near and dear to my heart today. Can't believe I hadn't talked about it yet. You remember 2 years ago, everybody, when Derrick Henry was just having an unbelievable season, and then he got hurt, had his foot injury, and he had to sit out the rest of the regular season. And in his absence, this little guy named Jonathan Taylor in Indianapolis all of a sudden started having some success. Started putting together some good games. Started to play really well. And everybody, not just the Colts fans, I expect it from the fans of the team, but it wasn't just Colts fans. It was everybody in NFL media just started shoving it down our throats. Jonathan Taylor is the best running back in the league. Jonathan Taylor is the new king. Jonathan Taylor is going to carry these Indianapolis Colts. And it ultimately led to one of my all-time favorite moments in NFL history, which was the last week of the regular season when all the mighty Colts had to do was beat the Jaguars, who were horrible. All they had to do was beat the Jaguars. They were in the playoffs. There were people making the case that the Colts would be the biggest threat to the Chiefs in the AFC. And that Jonathan Taylor-led Colts team just fecal matter all over the bed. They just fecal mattered themselves into oblivion and didn't make the playoffs. But then they came back the next year, and it's like, oh, these Colts are going to be great because they have Jonathan Taylor. They have Jonathan Taylor. He's going to come in and he's going to run for 3,000 yards in a season. Oh, the Colts are coming back. They've got Jonathan Taylor. They voted him the 4th best player in the NFL last year. 4th behind Mahomes, Aaron Donald, and I believe Josh Allen. 4th best player in the league. Oh my gosh, he's going to be the new king. He's going to be the rushing king for the next 30 years. Well, he didn't do nothing last season. We all remember that. I mean, he was horrible. Not horrible, but just a dude. He was not the dude. He was just a dude. And then this year, all of a sudden, right here, leading up to the season, Jonathan Taylor wants out. He wants out of there. He wants out of Indianapolis. He wants to be traded to somewhere else. And this Jim Irsay, what is wrong with this guy? What is this tweet? What do they call him now? Because it's not Twitter anymore. He put out an X-eat where, I mean, what was it? He was like, I could die tomorrow, and Jonathan Taylor could retire tomorrow, and everything would just keep going. I was like, what are you talking about, dude? Somebody take this man's phone away from him. Like, what is he talking about? And then he's like, I ain't got no plans of trading this guy. I'm like, okay. I hope Jonathan Taylor comes in and says, I'm sitting out this season. Like, everybody's like, oh, this Anthony Richardson, he is going to be the greatest thing in the world. Well, obviously Jonathan Taylor don't think so. Obviously Jonathan Taylor don't think so. Because he don't care. He's like, I want out of here. I want to be traded. I don't want to be a part of this team. So, obviously he ain't impressed with Anthony Richardson. And also, what happened to the whole life? Anthony Richardson, or excuse me, Jonathan Taylor, he's the future of this team. Oh, really? He disagrees. He wants to be the future of some other team. Good Lord. And then you've got the Texans. I haven't really heard a lot about the Texans. With Stroud, I don't know what's going on there, but like I feel like the Texans haven't even been talked about one time. I don't know what's going on there. And then you've got the mighty Jags, who are everybody's pick to win the AFC South. And you know what? I'm not an idiot. The Jaguars are going to be good. Offensively, especially. Trevor Lawrence, second half of last season, he was blossoming into everything they said he would be when he was drafted. Calvin Ridley's there, and he is getting as much hype as a wide receiver who didn't play last year, who has just come in. He's getting as much hype as Anthony Richardson is in Indianapolis. It's like, look at this route that Calvin Ridley ran against air today. He's so fast. Like, yeah, he's in the NFL. Like, he's fast. They're like, yeah, but look at this route that he ran. It's like, yeah, he's a wide receiver in the NFL. Like, what? Anyway, but yeah, they had Calvin Ridley, Zay Jones, Christian Kirk. They got some good talent on that team. Travis Etienne, they got some good talent. I will just say this. I have never seen a fan base more confident in a team that won 9 games in the regular season last year, had to come from way behind because the Titans just, I can't even say they wet the bed. They set the bed on fire and inexplicably lost their last 7 games. Barely beat Josh Dobbs and the Titans at home to even get in the playoffs. And then had to have the Chargers blow the biggest lead in NFL playoff history to win a playoff game to go lose to Pat Mahomes of Kansas City. So, like, I get, like, on paper, you look at the Jags, like, man, they're probably going to be pretty good. But, like, y'all acting like they went 15-2 and went to the AFC title game and lost on a last-second field goal. Like, y'all acting like, we're about to witness the greatest team in the world. I'm like, man, the Jaguars, okay? Let's hold our horses. You remember that year after they went to the AFC title game against the Patriots? Like, they almost won that AFC title game, by the way. Like, the Patriots had a little help from the officials to beat them, I'm afraid. But, they came back the next year and it was like, oh my God, the Jags are going to be great. We won like 2 games, so let's just hold our horses on the Jags. Looking at the Titans regular season early, I will say opening up the season against the Saints, no Alvin Kamara in that game. He's suspended. And be looking out for this. Joe Burrow went down last week in the Bengals practice. They thought it was going to be an Achilles. That would have been devastating for them. But turns out it's a quad injury of some sort, and he's going to miss some time over the first month of the season. Jamar Chase has said he wants him to sit out for the first month a month is 4 weeks, right? The Titans and Bengals play in week 4. So be looking out for that. I don't know. That's a little ways into the future, but just something to think about. Will Dotson says, I can't wait to see the tarp-covered seats again in Jacksonville. You better look out, man, because I'm telling you, I get it. They got the talent. I'm not taking anything away from Lawrence or Ridley, who hasn't even played in 2 years, by the way. But, like, I'm not taking anything away from that. I know the potential is there to have a good team. But, like, before we just coronate y'all can crown them if you want to crown them. But, you know, I better not get in trouble before the season even starts, before the preseason really even gets going. But this is the Two Tone Talk podcast. We'll be here all season, baby. And hope everybody just enjoys having Titans football on the screen this weekend. Hope that these rookies, these newcomers, Levis and Willis, put on a little performance that leaves us feeling encouraged and all beautiful and warm inside this weekend. Be sure to go follow me on Twitter X. And be sure to subscribe to Two Tone Talk Podcast. We'll be here all preseason, all season. We will be here staying way too high on the wins, way too low on the losses. God bless you, everybody. Have a good week. Tighten up. Bye.
Feel free to be whoever you want to be. Feel free to dance. Feel free to sing. Just feel free. Just let loose of what's got you down. Take your worries